All things are lessons, not sentences. Pull a chair closer to the fire for a moment. Not to be instructed, not to be corrected, but to remember what the word lesson was always pointing toward. All things are lessons God would have me learn. Not some things, not the pleasant ones, not the ones that fit a spiritual aesthetic. All. And immediately the ego flinches, because the ego does not hear lesson, it hears verdict, it hears consequence, it hears payback dressed up as pedagogy. But notice what the sentence does not say. It does not say, all things are punishments God would have me endure. All things are consequences God would have me survive. All things are tests God would have me pass. It says lessons. A lesson is not an attack. A lesson is not a blow. A lesson is not a warning shot fired across the bow of a guilty self. A lesson is an invitation to see differently. That distinction changes everything. The ego's dictionary versus God's. The ego has always been confused about teaching. To the ego, to teach someone a lesson means to hurt them enough that they never forget. Pain becomes the proof. Fear becomes the reinforcement. Memory is welded to suffering. That's why the ego loves consequences. Consequences feel authoritative, final, personal. But God does not teach through force. Force would require opposition. Opposition would require conflict. Conflict would require separation. And separation is precisely the illusion the lesson is undoing. A divine lesson does not say, you were wrong. It says, look again. So why would God have me learn anything? This is the quiet question hiding underneath the loud ones. If God is whole, if truth is complete, if love lacks nothing, why lessons at all? Because lessons are not for God. They are for the belief that forgot. God does not learn. God does not correct. God does not improve. The learner is the mind that believes it wandered. And the lesson is not about adding knowledge. It is about removing confusion. Think of it this way. If a child believes the stove is a monster that punishes curiosity, the lesson is not to shame the child. The lesson is to show the stove for what it is. The fear dissolves when the misinterpretation is corrected. Nothing was ever wrong with the stove. Nothing was ever wrong with the child. Only the story needed undoing. A fireside story. Imagine walking through a forest at night with a lantern. Every shadow looks like a threat. Every sound feels personal. Branches become grasping hands. Wind becomes pursuit. Now imagine dawn. The forest does not change. The trees do not apologize. The ground does not explain itself. But everything becomes a lesson in misperception. Oh, that's what that was. No punishment occurred. No enemy was defeated. No trial was passed. Only light was added. That is how God teaches. Why all things? Because selective learning preserves the ego. If only the bad things are lessons, the ego keeps the good things as proof of authorship. If suffering teaches but pleasure belongs to me, separation remains intact. But when all things are lessons, authorship collapses. Joy teaches, loss teaches, success teaches, delay teaches, silence teaches, triggers teach, repetition teaches. Not because they were sent, but because they can be used. The lesson is never in the event. The lesson is in the interpretation being released. Who is the student? Not the personality, not the character, not the body navigating circumstances. The student is the decision maker behind perception, the quiet chooser who decides attack or innocence, meaning or neutrality, story or truth. The ego cannot learn because the ego cannot question itself. The ego only defends. But the mind that is willing to pause, to suspend judgment, to ask, "What am I using this for?" that mind is teachable. And God teaches only through gentleness, because only gentleness can be received without defense.
The final relief. Here is the comfort hidden inside the lesson. Nothing is happening to you. Nothing is being done for you. Nothing is being taken from you. Everything is being offered to undo fear. A lesson does not chase, it waits. A lesson does not punish, it clarifies. A lesson does not demand suffering. It dissolves the belief that suffering was required. So when the Course says, "All things are lessons God would have me learn," it is not placing you in a cosmic classroom under surveillance. It is placing you by the fire, handing you a warm cup, and saying quietly, "Nothing here is against you. Nothing here is wasted. Nothing here is outside the reach of love. Now, are you willing to see it differently?" And that, not pain, not penance, not punishment, is the only lesson there ever was.